The other reasons we saw, the Meiri says Mishum Teyavin, the Rambam says Mishum Heker, and the Shibali Haleket explained the Yerushalmi that the Dimyan Tebayal Arusase Bebeis Chamav is mitzad the 7 or the 9 brachas that is there both by Arusase, by the Nisuin, the Birchis HaNisuin, and the Birchis HaMatzis. Fine. And we saw yesterday, we finished off that in the Alter Rebbe, there's seemingly, says three different reasons. In Taf and Aleph, the Alter Rebbe says first the reason of the brachas in Sivdalid, that you can't eat matzah of Pesach till you make on it all the 7 brachas, just like Arusasi Beveis Chamav. Then the Alter Rebbe says the halacha that fits with that reason, that if it's matzah that you couldn't be yetzer with, then there wouldn't be a yetzer, even if it tastes the same. The Alter Rebbe later on, but says the reason seemingly of Teyavin, because he brings the Yeshemrim that by murder you can't eat either because of Teyavin, and Yeshemrim even by Charesis. And then the Alter Rebbe brought by a katan seemingly a whole brand new reason for Achlas Abasar Bavur Zeh Heich Yemer Bavur Zeh. So that was what we left off with yesterday. I want to show you now Shulchan Aruch, Arama, and a Bir Agra that seems very difficult. I'm probably not understanding it correct, but let me show you. Some of you saw it, maybe. In Siman Taf Mem Dalet, in Shulchan Aruch, talks about the din of Arba Asa Shachaliis B'Shabbos. Taf Mem Dalet, there it's speaking about B'dikas Chametz, when you do B'dikas Chametz. The Mela speaks about the Sudas Shabbos, when Erev Pesach is Chol B'Shabbos. Nishayrin Mazin Shtei Sudas. L'tzeirach HaShabbos, the Sita Shlishes Mana Achar HaMincha ve'az Einei Yachal Aseisa Lei B'Matzah V'Lei B'Chametz Ela B'Matzah Ashira. Says the Mechaber, Suda Shlishes, which has to be after Mincha, you can't make on Shabbos on Erev Pesach with Chametz, because after Mincha, after Chatzai, is coming Nishtas Chametz. You can't make it with Matzah, because there's the Isser of eating Matzah Erev Pesach that we saw yesterday. It's from Mohammed HaShachar. Ella b'Matzah Ashira, the only thing possible to use for Sukkot Shlishis is Matzah Ashira. B'tzarech la'seisa kaidem sha'asiris, because of the din of our Mishnah, that la'yechal samach lemincha k'dei sheyechal matzah l'teyavin, even the matzah shira, that's like Tosfos explained the din of the Mishnah. Comes the Ramah, and the Ramah says, b'medinis elu she'enei yagid lecha matzah shira, yekayim suda shlishas b'minei peres b'basar v'dagim. By us, that we're machmer, we don't eat matzah shira. So what are you going to use for suda shlishas? Use fine, clear. That's the din. That's the mechaber and the Ramah. Comes the Bir Hagra Oy Zayin, and he says, explains the Ramah. He says the halacha is that suda shlishis shalashudas has to be dafka with pas. But b'makim delay efsha, you could be saying on the days that you could use peris and basar. And b'meila over here it's lay efsha. And then he adds like this. This that the Ramah says, b'medinis elu, we don't eat matzah ashira, is not like Tosfos, that Tosfos said that you eat suda shlishis with matzah ashira. Right? Tosfos said, v'chein Inyanei Rabbeinu Tam, that Rabbeinu Tam lahalacha, you shlishis.
What means Eiteris? How to do it?
Ashira, that was the V'chein Inyanei Rabbeinu Tam. Says the Gra that the Ramah who says we don't use matzah Ashira is not like Tosfos. Yeah. Zok the Bir Gra. The Chachas at Tosfos. Why la halacha does the Ramah not hold of Tosfos? The Chachas at Tosfos the matzah Ashira mut be'erev Pesach. What's the hechrech of Tosfos? That you're allowed to eat matzah ashira on Erev Pesach. Mikayach kushasa maishna Erev Pesach samach lemincha ayin sham Tosfos arvei psach and sadetes amad beis layecha. Dr. Biragra. What's the raya of Pesach? That there's no Isser on Matzah Ashira, that the Isser of Matzah Erev Pesach doesn't apply to Matzah Ashira. Because otherwise the whole din of the Mishnah is not understood. What's the Mishnah saying? Lo yoichal samach lemincha, you can't eat matzah a whole day. Elamai, there must be some matzah that you could eat the rest of the day. And that's aser samach lemincha k'dei sheyechal matzah l'teyavin. Is matzah Ashira, that's the hechrech of Teisvis, that the Isser of the Yerushalmi doesn't apply to matzah Ashira. Abel harambam pirisham da yarko shardvarim kama da achila aser behu. Says, however, the Rambam in Pirisham Mishnayos has another answer on Teisus' question. Again, Teisus' question is, what's the Mishnah saying? You're not allowed to eat matzah a whole day out of Pesach because of the Yerushalmi. That's Teisus' question. Says the Rambam, the answer is, and Teisus asks, Ibn Mine Targima, Metabo B'Mine Targima, if it's other foods don't have an issue, it's just a suga. So the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos says the answer is it's talking about other foods. And nevertheless, other foods, if you eat a lot of them, it's going to interfere with eating the matzah l'teyavin. And that's what the Mishnah is answering when it says, Lo yeichal ad shetachshach, it's coming to aser eating other foods, a lot of them. But Mela Zakta Gras, seemingly, according to the Rambam, Hastanish kin makir, Hastanish kin hechrech, that matzah shira is not included in the Isser. Teisus is hechrech is because otherwise what's the Mishnah talking about? According to the Rambam, the Mishnah is talking about basar v'dagim, other foods. Yeah? So therefore matzah shira maybe is b'chlal the Isser. The Mela is delay Teisus, the Mela is Zakta Ramah, that ha'idna ne'agin, that we don't need matzah shira. Because since we hold like the Rambam, we don't have the hechrech of Teisus that matzah shira is mutter. Right? That seems to be what the Gra is saying. Probably not, but that's what I'm reading in it. Yeah. So if that's what he's saying, that's what the words sound like they're saying, is a pella gadol b'yitz. For two reasons. The first reason is the smaller reason, is because the Gra is nemming on. See, we said two ways to understand Teisus. I mentioned briefly yesterday. Teisus says matzah ashira is mutter. It's not b'chlal ha'isser. There's an isser in the Yerushalmi, and Teisus says that matzah ashira is not b'chlal ha'isser. Right? How does Teisus know that matzah ashira is not b'chlal ha'isser? What's the mucker? What's the basis of Teisus that matzah ashira is not b'chlal ha'isser? The Bir Agra seems to name on the basis of Teisus is the kasha that he has on the Mishnah. B'meila, if there's another teretz on the kasha of the Mishnah, which the Rambam has, then Teisus has no basis that matzah shira is mutter. Without the kasha on the Mishnah, Teisus wouldn't be matzah shira. But really, I could say that Teisus is matzah shira misvara. Teisus says a svara that since it's not matzah that you could be yetzer with on Pesach, so therefore misvara it's not b'chlal iser. B'meila, he answers the question on the Mishnah, but not that the question on the Mishnah is the makir adin. So you could say either way, but a raya to the second way, seemingly, is the mechaber holds like the Rambam, right? The mechaber holds like the Rambam, and he brought it down in Tafayin Aleph that you're not allowed to eat even other foods. B'meila, according to the mechaber, according to the Beis Yosef, there's no question on the Mishnah. And nevertheless, the mechaber is matter to eat matzah shira of Pesach. So from the mechaber gufa, we see that the yisai, that the makir of the heter of matzah shira isn't from the question of the Mishnah. It's just that with that svara verantwortlich in the Mishnah. That's one difficulty. The Teisvis read is take mashma that the din of Teisvis kufa is based on his question on the Mishnah, because he says on Teisvis ve'ein sarach midachik, kilu that Teisvis was deichik. He had to force himself to be mater matzah shira because of the question on the Mishnah, and on that the Teisvis read asked. So the Teisvis read is mashma, a little like the way the Gra seems to understand the Teisvis, but from the Mechaber we see clearly not like that. Memela Kamenish Zagen as the Makar from the Ramah. That's because the Ramah holds like the Rambam, because the Mechaber also holds like the Rambam, and he still holds the Dina like the Teisvis. So it's not dependent on whether you have a question on the question of Teisvis on the Mishnah. That's one difficulty. But what's a much bigger difficulty, the way I translated the Bir Agra to you, because I don't know any other way to translate it. I don't know how you guys understood it when you learned it before. I translated that he's saying it's the Loika HaTeisvis, that he says that the Ramah says Ha'idna b'medinis elu, was the lashon of the Ramah. That the Ramah in Taf Mem Dalet that says Uvimdinis elu she'ein noyag in lechel matzah ashira. He means that we don't treat matzah shira as being mutter. We treat it as being b'chlal ha'isser of oichel matzah ber Pesach. And the Gra says why? Because according to the Ramah, matzah shira, he doesn't agree with the din of Teisvis, who says that matzah shira is not included in the Yerushalmi. That's a Peleg Gadol. When the Ramah says ha'dinis ha'elu nayagin shaloi lechel matzah shira, he's mitzayin to Kamesha Kasa Kidlakaman Simin Taf Samach Beis. In Taf Samach Beis, we see seemingly that the chumrah of matzah shira that the Ramah is talking about has nothing to do with this Yerushalmi B'chalal. It's a separate chumrah. It's a chumrah not to eat matzah shira because we're afraid as it's a charangemish vaser. Matzah shira has a maila that mayim that may peiris in machmitzin. And therefore it doesn't become chametz, and therefore it doesn't need the same type of precautions. But ha'idna, the Ramah says over there, we don't make matzah with mei peres, because if there's a little bit of water that gets mixed in, then it's the opposite. Then the mei peres is machmetz even more than plain water. And therefore, because we're chayshish that water got mixed in, therefore nutz minish can make matzah shira b'chlal. So they're not using matzah shira as a separate din. It's mitzad chash cham. It's nothing to do with the isra of eichel matzah of Pesach. And that says clearly in the Alter Rebbe, in the Ramah, seems like that. It says clearly in the Alter Rebbe. Simin Taf Samach Beis, Siv Zayin, V'chol Zeh Meikir Hadin. Avok farnagu b'mdinis elu lahachmir shalei lolo shafilu b'mei peres bovad lefi shachayshish and shema nis'ara b'hamayim kol shehu. And therefore it's a chash chametz, nothing to do with the Yerushalmi. Yeah, Taf Samach Beis, the Mishnah Berurah Taf Samach Beis also teaches the mechaber like that. That's l'chayre muchach. So this Ramah, that the Ramah says that we're noyag not to eat matzah shira, has nothing to do with the Teisvis b'chlal. This is not connected with the shaklavitaya, which types of matzah are included in the Isser of the Yerushalmi. This has to do with a separate chash of matzah shira mitzad chametz, because out of Pesach after chatzais chametz is aser, and therefore anything that has a chash chametz kemen yamot nishdasen, and therefore we're machmer matzah shira. That's why if you look in the Shari Tshuva, over here in Taf Mem Dalet, he brings the Noida B'Yehuda, that the Noida B'Yehuda says you could be mechalek between Erev Pesach and Pesach. In this Isser that we're talking about, of Matzah Shira, that's Mitzad Achshash Chametz, since it's just Achshash Chametz, and the Isser Chametz of Erev Pesach from Chatzais is not with the same Chomer as the Isser Pesach, as the Isser Chametz on Pesach. The Mela, the Chash Chametz that's there by Matzah Shira, but that's all based on this understanding that the Chumrah, the Medinas Elu that the Ramah is talking about is all Bitzad Chash Chametz. It has nothing to do with the Yerushalmi. Mela, if this has nothing to do with the Yerushalmi, so it's not shaykh to say L'cheira that the makir of the Ramah is because the Loiket Teisvis is because he doesn't have Teisvis's question. Teisvis's question could be a reason, depending on my first question, for determining, for bringing a raya to what's included in the Yerushalmi and what's not included in the Yerushalmi. Aber l'cheira hat nish kinad, that has no shaykhet to this chumrah of matzah shira mitzvah chash chametz. So that's a very big tzarech here. Nachzer l'Inyanei, but
which answer? What does the girl say that the Ramah answers?
He answers like the Rambam. He holds like the Rambam. He holds that basar minit tagima is also aser. There's no question on the Mishnah. The Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos says a different answer, and he holds of the answer of the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos. Right? That's what he says. Yeah, that's what they got delay. Why? Because the Chechach, is from Tesis' question on the Mishnah, and the Rambam in the Mishnah brings the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos. So that's how he's explaining the Ramaz b'Medina Seilu, right? Klar? Al Kapanim. So we see two things about Matzah Ashira. Matzah Ashira has an issue of chametz. Well, there's three things about Matzah Ashira. Matzah Ashira you can't use for mitzvahs matzah because it's not lechem oini, right? Matzah Ashira has a chash chametz, and therefore you can't eat it on Pesach at all. But Medinas Elu that were machmer to be chesher shemen is arev b'mayim, and then make peiris is machmetz even more than regular water. And Matzah Shira Teisvis is mechadish, and that they had the discussion that maybe Matzah Shira, and that's what the Mechaber says in Taf Ayin Aleph, that Matzah Shira is not b'chlal the Isser of the Yerushalmi. That separate Isser that Eichel Matzah be'erev Pesach kebeil aritzasi b'veis chamav, and that Teisvis said that doesn't include Matzah Shira, and Teisvis said Amilsa b'taima, and that's another din that we learned about Matzah Shira. I'm just going to add to what I said. Another hechrech that what the Ramah says over here, B'Medinas Elu, has nothing to do with the Yerushalmi. It's because the Mechaber in Taf Ayin Aleph clearly says that we eat matzah ashira erev Pesach. The din of Tosfos that the Yerushalmi doesn't apply to matzah ashira as they pass into Mechaber, and over there the Ramah doesn't magia anything in Taf Ayin Aleph. According to the Gra, that the Ramah's basis for arguing on the Mechaber saying the Medina Seilu we do different is because he doesn't agree with Tosfos' heter of Matzah Shira because he doesn't have the hechrech from the Mishnah. So then in Taf Ayin Aleph, where it says the Iker HaHeter of Matzah Shira, where there the Mechaber says the din of Tosfos, that Matzah Shira is not B'chlal Yisr, over there the Ramah should have been Magia, he's not Magia anything. Obviously over here he's talking about a different din, the din of the Isser Matzah Shira mitzad Chash Chametz. Nachzer Inyanei. So, but Matzah Shira b'negeya to the Yerushalmi, which is our discussion, I've done Tosfos is mechadish that Matzah Shira is mutter, it's not b'chlal the Isser. There you could have the cheshbon of the Gra, but not connected with this Ramah, that maybe the Rambam will argue on Tosfos, maybe not. Because we don't know still. The question that I asked you is Tosfos is hechrech from the question on the Mishnah, or is Tosfos is hechrech misvara, and he uses that to for the Mishnah. The Tosfos read is mashma. That's a question. So now let me go back. So we have a makim suffix possibly by Matzah Shira. We said a bunch of different reasons for the Yerushalmi with a bunch of nafkaminas ladina, right? L'chayra. Now, we said the nafkamin is by B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim, right? We said the nafkamin is by Akatim, by Lil Pesach. We spoke yesterday. Let's come back now to Matzah Ashira. Besides the rayas from the Mishnah V'chulu, what should be the din of Matzah Ashira b'negeya to the Yerushalmi? The Isser and the Yerushalmi of Ha'eicha Matzah Pesach Ilu Be'el Arasasa Beis Chamav. What should be the din of Matzah Ashira?
If you learn like the Marsha,
the Marsha, so we already came back and discussed, we saw what the Marsha says, and we said everything that the different Mefarshim say is totally in the different reasons. So could you try to analyze with all the 4, 5, 6 reasons? We really know 6 reasons possibly, maybe. But with all the reasons we know, no, Basta face coming by Matzah Shira.
No, Matzah Shira.
What?
The Shaila Marsha Taka learned that if it's a milsa b'taima, then it would be totally if the taste is the same or not. Saying we don't know if that's Taka true.
The Marsha doesn't say any tzvara that Matzah Shira should be us. He says a suffix b'negeya to He says a suffix benegate to b'tzeik is shalnachrim, and he remains with a suffix. But matzah shira. Again, let me run it by you. I don't know if you're a fan. It's simple, yeah. If it's mitzat teyaven, matzah shira tastes different. That's the svara of the Marsha.
Right.
If it's mitzat heka, matzah shira tastes different. It looks different. I think it looks different usually, yeah. But it tastes different, and that's at stomach the heka, the pashtus. If it's mitzad the psukim, matzah shira, you're not yetzi the chivase. That was the svara that taste was said. So the chayra matzah shira, all the other even b'tzeik is shalnachrim, and balai, the various cases we had and various types of matzahs, we could say it's totally in the reasons. But the chayra matzah shira should be mutter l'chol days. There shouldn't be even a mocking for a suffix that the Yerushalmi, because all of the reasons that we have in the Yerushalmi seemingly don't apply to matzah shira. Right? The chayra matzah shira, doctors I can have a minute. So Taisvis, you could say, sataka with the pshitas. If you would learn in Taisvis, that Taisvis is hechrech, is mitzad the kasha and the Mishnah, the way the Bira girl learns. But then I'm going to say this as a shaila. Why does Taisvis need a hechrech from the Mishnah? There's no way to learn pshat in the Yerushalmi that it should include matzah shira. Even if Taisvis, you'll say, is Taka saying it misvara, but the Taisvis Rid seems to be mistapik in the din of Taisvis. Why is there a makim l'safik l'chayra? All the svaras that we know in the Yerushalmi don't include matzah shira and the Yisr, right? So you have the Shulchan Aruch in front of you. Over here in Taf Mem Dalid, there's a Teres Zekanim, Ois Aleph, right? So he's telling sich on the Shulchan Aruch, he's not explaining the din of the Ramah. V'yesh oisre matzah ashira b'yem arba asar. Yeah. Some asar matzah ashira. Shaharik siv ba'erev teichlu matzis. This is the reason of the Rekeach. This is the Isser of the Yerushalmi that Teres Zekanim is talking about. Not the Isser of the Ramah mitzad chash chametz, but the Isser of the Yerushalmi. Zakter, the Isser of the Yerushalmi mitzad HaPraseh goes even a matzah shira. Shariksiv ba'erev teichlu matzis. Umatzah shira gam kin matzah nikres. Sharikala menachis ba'is matzah v'yunilation b'shamen. Zakter Avart. It says ba'erev teichlu matzah. It's from that pasuk I learn a meal that erev Pesach before night can't finish that in matzah. What kind of matzah can't you eat? It includes also matzah shira, zakter araya. Because by menachis, the din is kala menachis ba'is matzah, and the menachis are kneaded with shemen. If it's put in shemen, not just plain water, it's the matzah shira, and it's still called matzah. That means as matzah shira, histech matzah. Now, it could be he means with what he's going to say later, which I'm going to come back to soon. The way from what he said till here seems very hard to understand. Avad matzah shira his matzah. But when the pasuk says ba'erev teichlu matzahs, the pashtus l'chala pirushim, if that's the reason of the Yerushalmi, is the pshat that these matzahs that you eat ba'erev, you can't eat bein arbayim, you can't eat by day. A matzah shira, even if it's called matzah and other psukim, it's not this matzah. This matzah ba'erev teichlu matzahs is coming doch nishiyitz zayin matzah shira. That's l'chala deis because it's not lechamayim. Is hadra kushel aduchta? How could the pasuk be being memayet the matzah, which is called matzah elsewhere? Taka in menachos, it's leinyan menachos matzah shira is called matzahs. As their pasuk ba'erev teichlu matzahs meintach nish matzah shira. So back, what's the havamina? What havamina could there be? That's obviously what this Teres Zekanim seems to be addressing. What havamina could there be that matzah shira should be b'chlal ha'isra of the Yerushalmi? So I see a little bit Mefarshim are looking for a reason for this, and I see they're going into Pirtzis Chukes. So I'm also saying maybe a person. I don't know. I don't see any of the answers that are. Maybe you'll find something. I'm going to tell you one possible svara here with the sicha that you saw, right? You saw in Chelek Tazayin in Para 5. The Rebbe brings a big chiddush from the Maral. The Maral says, why can't you be yotze with matzah shira? Well, es steht in Teira lechem oini, right? It says in the Teira lechem oini, and the matzah oini is flour and water. If it has any other ingredient, it's not lechem oini. Says the Maral, there's two psukim. There's the pasuk of lechem oini, yeah. There's the pasuk lechem oini, and there's the pasuk ba'erev teichlu matzis. In the pasuk ba'erev teichlu matzis, steht nicht lechem oini. B'meila says the Maral Ledina. That's what the Rebbe brings here in the Hara. The Maral says Ledina. What if someone doesn't have lechem oini on Pesach? He has only matzah shira. Someone comes Pesach and he only has matzah gemished with apple juice or orange juice or oil or whatever it is. Dr. Maral, even though la halacha you can't have matzah shira, but if that's all you have, you should eat the matzah shira because you'll be mekayim the mitzvah of erev teichel matzahs. You are not yotze lechem oini, but these are two separate dinim. You're yotze part of the din. You're yotze one of the din. There's two separate chiyuvim. The chiyuv of erev teichel matzahs over there wasn't nishmayit lechem oini. That's the chiddush of the Maral. The chiddush that the Sfarim bring there, and the Rebbe brings it here. No, later Maral. Now let's come back. Kamishin herin asvara that matzah shira should be asur out of Pesach. Could we see a svara? So let's go.
Because you create a mitzvah.
If let me just try to work it out. If it's mitzad teyavin or heker, so then I could say, well, since lepayo is that's vechiyuvin, the matzah that we're going to be yotze the mitzvah with is going to be lechem oini because we have to also fulfill the din of lechem oini. The meila matzah that's matzah shira doesn't take away from the teyavin and the heker. Since lepayo, we have the teyavin and the heker of our matzah that we want to be mekayim both dinim with. If it's mitzad va'achlu es abasar balayla hazeh, va'achlu es abasar balayla hazeh is l'cheira the pasuk of lechem oini. If it's mitzad va'erev teichlu matzes, that pasuk of va'erev teichlu matzes, va'erev teichlu matzes, zaktach de Maral, that va'erev teichlu matzes can be mekayim zayin eich on lechem oini. So if the yismaker ha'isters va'erev teichlu matzes, Yamot is the asvara that matzah shira is b'chlal kosaf mitzad ba'erev teichlu matzis. You could be yotze with matzah shira, even though you're not yotze b'shleimus, or you're not yotze both dinim, or you're not yotze the prat of lechem oini. So according to the reason of brachas, basically was for zayim brachas, yeah, but that depends. But could the Maral, according to the din of the Maral, the halacha of matzah shira, whether it's b'chlal the Yishalmi, could also be tali in the various reasons. We have enough communion between the various reasons. Now, Ebazeh is nachzer l'Inyanei. We had a question on the Teis V'Srit. Yeah, you with me?
Yeah.
We had a question on the Teis V'Srit. Teis V'Srit asked a question on Teisvis, Ein Tzarech Lidachik, yeah? First he asked a question on Teisvis as the Mishnah Halbish from the Yisham. But then he asked a second question on Teisvis that Ein Tzarech Lidachik and say Matzah Shira, because you could say it's B'tzeik Shel Nachrim. So we had a difficulty in the Teis V'Srit. Why is B'tzeik Shel Nachrim a better answer than Matzah Shira? Adirabba, from the Mashal came out that Matzah Shira is more pasha than B'tzeik Shel Nachrim. Right? That was our difficulty in the Teis V'Srit back in the beginning of yesterday. Right? Now, is Yumtuk. Now it's very, very good. If we want to look at the taste Visrid and say which of the reasons, we divide it into two, the Prati stuff in Medayik Zaymer, but which of the reasons does the taste Visrid hold of? Well, the taste Visrid holds the halacha that B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim is not B'chlala Isim, right? Not like the Marsha. The old B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim is not B'chlala Isim. B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim has the same taste. It looks the same and tastes the same. It's only a halacha-dikit problem. Mitzad the reasons of Teyavin and Heker, so then you would have the svara of the Mashad, and B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim should be B'chlala Yitzim. That the taste Visrid holds Ladina not like the Mashad, that B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim is not B'chlala Yitzim. Hastas he holds that the reason for the Isser is Mitzad Pasik or Mitzad Adin, one of the psukim or the brachas. Lefiza is the taste Visrid is l'shitase. If the reason is because of the din, so then adarabah. So then, according to one of the Ifanim at least, there's a svara that B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim is better than Matzah Ashira, because B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim l'chol hadayis kantzon sheyetzes in the mitzvah. Because l'chol hadayis is the matzah that you want to use on the seder has to be matzah shmura sedach nish shomer l'shem mitzvah. So it doesn't have any tzad of being yetz to the mitzvah. So if the Isser is totally and being yetz to the mitzvah, that's for sure mutter. Mashenke matzah ashira, that there's a tzad that you could use it for the mitzvah late the maral. Because there's a tzad that al kapanim be'erev teichlu matzahs kens to yetz design. Oh, zok the taste Visrid ain't sarich lidachik to be mechadish a heter of matzah ashira, which is a bigger chiddush. B'shas all you could be machriach is the heter of B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim. The Mela Fiza is now, let's look at the other question that the Teisvis Rida asked on Teisvis. His first question, which the second question seems to go away from, and that's a separate discussion. You have to know how that works. But the first question was that Al Karchach, the Mishnah haltach nish from the Yerushalmi. Because you're asking a question from the Yerushalmi on the Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't hold of the Yerushalmi, because if the Mishnah would hold of the Yerushalmi, gedarv their man in their Isser from Matzah Erev Pesach, b'mikol shekain, if it speaks about the Isser from Aller Lai Machalim, I'm not eating any food min amin chalamayli, for sure should have said the Isser of Matzah. So how's Teisvis Taka going to answer? And the Teisvis Rid himself in his second teretz was not so sure about this seemingly. So then how's he going to answer? Then what, if our Mishnah holds of the Yerushalmi, Teisvis is B'Pshitas. Yeah, Teisvis holds there's no Machlekes Cloud. The Yerushalmi is Kuliyam. So why didn't the Mishnah mention Teisvis?
And you shut everything off and do it again.
And the Teisvis Rid is coming with Hechrich, right? That if he's saying of Loyechal, of Al Machalim, so how's it possible that question? Yeah, if you're with me, muted, unmuted. Could be this question is also totally in the reasons. What's the hechrich of the taste of Visrid? How could it be the Mishnah didn't mention the Isra of Loyechal, of Matzah? Because the Mishnah not talking there's sug Isra. If the Isra of Matzah Erev Pesach is mitzat Teyaveh, so then the Mishnah is saying the Isurim that are mitzat Teyaveh, Loyechal min amin chalamayli mitzat Teyaveh. He's not going to mention the Isra of Matzah itself, mitzat Teyaveh. Then we can understand the Teiker, the Shturim of the Teisvis Rid's Kasha. Mashenkein, if the reason of the Isra Matzah is mitzat the Psukim, mitzat Isra b'fnei atzmei, the way the Teisvis Rid seems to learn in his second tenet. So then the Kasha is not such starke Kasha. Einochanami Matzah is also, but it's a separate din. It has no connection with the din of the Mishnah. It's a din from a pasuk. It's a din completely a different svara. The Mishnah is talking about an inyan of Teyavin, and it connects together a few inyanim of Teyavin, and that's a din b'fnei atzmei. It's a state Yerushalmi. State das nicht in the Mishnah. That could be the difference between the two terutzim of the Teisvis Rid, and that's why in the second teretz he himself doesn't have this hechrich. Like we said, the second teretz he's learning it's for sure mitzad adin, and he doesn't have this hechrich that the Mishnah doesn't hold like the Yerushalmi.
So now, the feet of Areno, I want to tell you one more part, possibly, because we left off with a very big difficulty in Alter Rebbe. That Alter Rebbe seems to say 3 different reasons. So the reason of Teyavin is nicht as a grace kasha. That by Murray he says Teyavin. Like we said, it could be called, I said 2 possibilities. It could be called a Takar Rabbana Kain Deiraisa Takar. Mela Zak Min Asvara for them. It could be that the Teyavin is the time of the Kra, even if he's learning it for the Psukim or for the Sheva Brachas, but we don't learn it as a Chayk. We learn how Gufas Mitzat Teyavin, and B'meila he says that that's by Morer also. And I told you yesterday, it could be that he's saying that that's good for the 2 Svaras of the 2 Yashemim, if it's a Din Mamish or that the Svaras Mitzat Teyavin. When it comes to Katan and Rezaktin Gansen and Ayat Tam, that seems to be no shaykhs to anything we said before. If a Katan Yigiyah Lachinam, so he's included in the same Isser. If he's like, so if it's the same Isser, and the Isser is whatever reason we gave before, Tzimitzat Teyavin, that he had to say by Murder, that he didn't say Bechal before the Katan, Tzimitzat the Brachas, why is there no reason by Katan before that? So Ula Yeshleima Lefit Varenu, if the reason is from any of the 3 reasons, from the Sheva Brachas, or from the Be'erev Teichel Matzis, or from Ba'achlas Abasar Balayla, from the Psuk. It's not the Pshat, and this is the side of Teisvis, and of the Teisvis written by B'tzeikis Shalachrim. And Teisvis, because Teisvis of Kosav by Matzah Ashira doesn't give the reason that it tastes different. The reason is because you can't be Yetzi Nechivasi. Haste the Pasuk is not just the Makir of the Isser, the Pasuk is also being Magdir, the Chafza of the Isser. This matzah that you're able to be Mekayim the mitzvah by night, this is the matzah that you have a Isra, Rabbanan or Minatera, that's the Shaklavitayu we had yesterday, but this matzah you have a Isra to eat out of Pesach. When the Torah would come and say you have an Isra to eat matzah out of Pesach, so then I could say a Kotten has an Isra to eat matzah out of Pesach mitzad chinuch. Whatever Isra a Kotten has, min adin a Kotten has mitzad chinuch. If he's yigiyah lechinuch, then all I would have to say is a Kotten shigiyah lechinuch if he's yidim. But here we have a problem. The Torah doesn't only say a Isra, the Torah also says Fas is Asr. And when it comes to a Kotten, was hat nicht der Chiyuv von Matzah. The Psukim gehen noch nicht auf a Kotten. So therefore the Pasuk is not being magdir for a Kotten that this is the Matzah, B'chlal, the Chefse, the Isura. The Isur is not Shayach by a Kotten. To say in other words, the Sheva Brachas, the Kotten has Taka Mitzad Chinuch. Yeah, that he's going to make 7 brachas. But the Chiyuv of Sheva Brachas is nicht by him. So it's like a Kayach Kaychai. We want to make the Isser, we have to extend up Za'in of Chinuch to create the Chafsa di Surah. Who says we do such a thing? The problem by the Kotten is just like the B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim. B'tzeikis Shal Nachrim, you have all the time in Ha'isr, aber it's nicht the Chafsa di Surah. If L'payal, you can't be Yitzhar, like the Alter Rebbe said about Matzah Kfufa, Lo Yitzhar, you would know for sure it's not good. It could be identical to Matzah, but if with this you can't do the mitzvah.
That's 5:45, so I don't know.
By a Kotten, a mitzvah was the Gadol hat nicht the Erev Teichel Matzahs for the Gadol is nicht by him. So even though he has a Erev Teichel Matzahs of Chinuch, he has a Ba'achlas of Asr B'laylas of Chinuch and Shabbat, but that's not enough to make this the Chafza the Isser, so nicht the Matzah for Chiyuv. Mainly by Kotten, the Rebbe had to come with a whole new reason. In other words, here we'll have this photo like I told you yesterday, Taka called it Token Rabbanon. The Rabbanon wanted to give a chinuch by a Kotten of all the dinim of Gdeilim, but they have to make it a Musa Daima, the Ikra Isser is doch the Shayach by the Kata. So they went to the general Tama Isser, but for that they had to make a special Svara by the Kata and a special Hakdara Sa Isser that Eich Yuchal Leimer before that. Kwanem keine Ula Yesh Leimer b'derech Efsher. Ikaris is Chavzayin Adar, von Zeit, was jeder eine darf haben in Azaza, und man darf haben den hier von Matzah and Shira, the Binyan from Leibach, Hipazin Teitzeyu, Nusa Leitelecho, to go with all our Ashira, with all the Keches and Nefesh, Shrein, and Mitzvah, and the Rizke Tukelis. Today is, I think, 4 o'clock, Mech, the Grace of Tfilis, it's Henkel, Kabri, Lahimis, and Ebish Eiser, and Tfilis, the Rizke, and Emetzeres, from Element, and we should dance into the Gula, Mitzvah, Shleima, with the Mitzvahs, and thank you. It's like it's in the
Rabbi Wagner. You still didn't answer one thing. No. According to the Milsa what? A few things. No, Stam. According to the Svara Milsa B'Taimus, why is it after by Matzah?
Okay, that's a whole other share. Yeah, according to the I can't tell you.
Fine, say that.
Okay,
Fuck it,